regulations
All right,
were,
guys, this is my last
loosened.
one.
And that led to the opportunity that you could have a tie-in a show directly to product. And then that led to a bigger idea of, well, where do kids spend their time? And in the early 80s, comic books were big. And that really resonated because kids saw it everywhere they went, whether it was in the toy store, the comic book store, or on TV.
So it was the change in those regulations that really allowed the kids to see how these great stories could be played out with their toys in a much more meaningful way.
Hello again, Megatron!
What the cartoon and animation did was give them life, a life beyond what the physical toy could do. And that really resonated. And I think they fed off of each other. I think that once the toys started coming into the programming over the course of the seasons, people looked forward to either buying the toy of the character they saw or couldn't wait to see the toy they have in the cartoon.
Because the TV show, it's always seen more viewership than what you're going to get out of a comic book. The show really allowed us to kind of tell the general story of the Transformers and get to know some of the characters. The comic books historically have always allowed us to dig a little bit deeper and play with a little bit different storylines, not only as far as what's happening within Autobots versus Decepticons, but also dig a little bit deeper in each of the personalities. So I think what's happened over time is that our comic book series have always allowed our most passionate fans to really find out one or two levels deeper into the magic of what's happening in the story, whereas our TV animation has really been able to tell the general story and introduce our characters in all new ways, in a way that's very entertaining for the broadest audience possible.
I don't know who you are, but you saved our lives. We're Autobots. We're from Cybertron, a planet far from Earth.
Another planet? That's awesome!
Those who tried to harm you are called Decepticons. We must stop them before they destroy your world.
I think cartoons at the time, certainly had their rules and violence issues and things. So it was a toned down version, whereas a comic book, I think the writers had the ability to explore the deeper myths and deeper character traits, which could be more aggressive than you could ever see on a half-hour animated program at that time. I think it's safe to say that when Transformers came out, it was a smash. I don't think anyone was prepared for how that puzzle play from vehicle to robot would resonate. And in an effort to get that entertainment out, whether it be in print or animation, they didn't always match up.
Shockwave! What is your command, Megatron? You are to stay behind. I entrust Cybertron to you, Shockwave.
There were some disconnects because the lines of communication were running so fast that the different parties that were responsible for telling those stories or bios or what have you didn't have time to talk to each other. We do a much better job now, but back then that caused a lot of the inconsistencies that still resonate with the fans today, where characters are represented differently across the different mediums.
I think one of the things that has allowed Transformers to stay relevant since 1984 is its ability to continuously evolve.
I think everything that's been done over the last 25 years, we try to bring that to bear when we're developing new ideas, new concepts, but always with an eye to the past, as if that's the signpost that we should head toward whenever we create anything new.
We continue to create new and exciting stories and reveal new characters and new storylines, each with a really powerful emotional connection to our fan base.
I'm as excited as anyone to see where it goes next.
We shall rise again.
This has been the most fun job I've ever had, whether at Hasbro or anywhere else, is really being associated with Transformers. I've been lucky enough to kind of be one of the people on the team to see how Transformers, the brand, has really changed over the past 5 or 6 years to this global phenomenon now.
It's really fun seeing kids today playing with them, seeing a kid in the airport carrying his Transformer with him or pretending to be Optimus while he makes his brother pretend to be Megatron. It's really satisfying to see that you're having that kind of impact on a kid today.
What was great about working on the Transformers was it was this unformed world. I had no restrictions. I could come up with mythologies. I could come up with what their home planet looked like. I could come up with a concept like the creation matrix. And explain how new Transformers are created that way. And nobody was there to stop me because there was nothing out there to say otherwise, really. And it made it a wonderful opportunity to really let my imagination run free.
It was amazing to be able to be there from the very beginning, to be able to impact in a team way with the Hasbro and with our writers and with the artists and with the production company, and have all this experience happen in a situation where everybody was only concerned with making it as good as possible.
There's been a lot of people that have made it what it is at this point, and I try to do our best to keep it going and play off that heritage that they initiated, so that we keep going year over year.
You know when you're doing a good quality product, you know when the story is rich, you know when it feels right. But again, you have no conception whatsoever that, 30, 35 years later, that these toys and this story and this intellectual property will be sort of treasured the way it is.
I always loved the Shockwave character, both in the animation and because my brother had the toy when I was a kid, and he'd get mad when I tried to play with it.
I did have a favorite in the 80s, and that was the Perceptor toy, which he didn't see a lot of time in the comics or cartoons because he was a microscope and people didn't know what to do with the gear-based Transformers.
Grimlock getting angry now. He was so great. He had this gigantic guy. It's like Andre the Giant was a Transformer.
One of my favorite characters also was the Shark.
I always liked Soundwave. There was just something really cool about Soundwave. He had such an iconic voice.
Have been detected.
Robots in disguise.
Alright guys, that's it. See y'all guys next time on the Test TV show. And I forgot to mention this too. Come on.